Last Wednesday, the collapse of a factory in Savar, Bangladesh, claimed nearly 400 lives of mostly poor garment workers. Now, this comes just months after a factory fire in Bangladesh claimed more than 110 lives. So with Bangladesh garment workers producing clothing for American consumers, many observers are asking if U.S. labor safety standards should be applied worldwide, where factories like those in Bangladesh are notorious for their unsafe conditions.
Bangladesh is currently the lowest wage country in the world for apparel workers, who make 18 cents an hour there. And for exactly that reason, it is a very popular place for brands and retailers to source garments. And a number of brands and retailers audited this particular factory and had audited previous factories where fires and other building safety disasters had taken place, and assured consumers that workers at these facilities were safe, that laws were being complied with, and that standards were in place. And yet what we have seen is that is not the case, and that in fact the monitoring programs put in place by brands and retailers sourcing from Bangladesh, including Walmart, Gap, and H&M, have been an abject failure at protecting workers' lives. And so we need fundamental changes in the way that these brands and retailers operate their supply chains in Bangladesh to prevent these types of disasters going forward. I would note that the Bangladesh National Building Code, which is actually based on U.S. Fire safety and building structure law, is quite good in these areas. And so it's not simply a matter of creating better laws or a new regulatory approach. The fact of the matter is that brands and retailers go to Bangladesh precisely because there is no enforcement of the laws that are on the books in that country. And brands and retailers pay lip service to the labor standards in these factories. They pretend to be rigorously inspecting and monitoring the factories that they're sourcing from, and yet those programs have done nothing to address fire and building safety and structural issues. And so the responsibility is ultimately on the multinational buyers like Walmart and Gap and H&M, who have the complete financial wherewithal to make these factories and structures safe. It's simply a lack of willingness on their part to do so. The idea about compensation for victims has put forward a number of times, and that's absolutely something that we have advocated for. And unfortunately, brands and retailers have paid very little money to workers and families of workers who were killed in these factories. And the reality is that's not going to prevent future deaths. The only thing that will prevent future deaths is for brands and retailers to pay for structural repairs and renovations to be made. We can advocate for money to be paid for families every time this happens, but that's what we'll be left doing unless fundamental changes are made in the supply chains in Bangladesh. And I would note, we all heard the tragic stories of the police warnings about the unsafe structure, the cracks that were noted the day before, and the other businesses in this building, the bank and the market, were shut down, where the 5 garment factories remained open. And that is precisely because of the drive from Western brands and retailers to force factories to remain in operation for 12, 13, 14 hours a day, so that factories meet the very short turnaround times that brands and retailers impose on them, or else they risk losing business. And so unless those incentives change, we're gonna continue to see managers telling workers to stay at their machines when fires break out, to go into buildings that are unsafe.